math, y'all took math last week. This is part of that division unit, right, that we talked about last time about how we're gonna do the test a little bit differently. They're gonna have more of the computation pieces, just so we can know how they're dividing. Do they know how to divide? And then bring in a couple of those star questions, right? So overall, we had 54% of the kids pass, which is pretty good. And then the individual teacher scores we have here. And then we'll go into each teacher, and then we'll talk about where their difficulties were. Okay, so Ms. Romero, we'll start with you since you're here. You had 26% of the kids that actually took the test that passed. And this looks like you had most of the kids take the test. What were some of the things that you were seeing as far as
your PLC with your reading data? So we're going to review your data for CFA 3. And so this right here gives you the cumulative view of what it looks like for the grade level, right? So you'll see your name. So Ms. Baltazar, number of students passed, 10. And then your percentage, Ms. Lujano, 10. And then your percentage, Mr. Urbina. Mr. Urbina has, I think you actually have 9 students. Is that right? How many first graders?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some didn't take it.
So some didn't take it.
Though.
So, okay, out of the testers, then you have 2 that pass and your percent. And then Miss Oliver, I don't think we have your data for that, for this,
Oh, and I had it was
CFA 3. So, just make sure you put that in. So then we'll see then as a grade level right now without Miss Oliver's, we have total number of passers at 53%. Okay, so that's holistically. Any questions on that part? Now, Ms. Neitzel is putting in the comparative data from the previous CFA, so we can kind of see where the students are and they're showing growth, right? Comparably. So you'll see reading CFA 2, and then the third one that you just took, and then you'll also see the results over here by every student, the predictions versus the actual, and then the tested versus the actual, okay? Remember, if they did not take it, they still count as a no. Okay, did not pass. All right, so, Ms.
It
Baltazar?
also said in like the second paragraph, it was step 1. So I really had to tell them like, okay, these are paragraphs. So, and then we're gonna talk about the steps. So it wasn't exactly like step 1 wasn't on the number 1 paragraph. It was on the number 2 paragraph.
Right.
So if they saw a number, they might have just equated, oh, there's 1 and here's step 1, and they weren't always
Right, because they're not
matching up.
familiar with the format. Right, absolutely. Okay, so I think, and then just continuing to model that, especially with the review, is gonna be helpful for them. Thank you notes, what annotations are. This is the time when you don't have to write complete sentences. I just need to know what that was about in your own words. Like, it's quick because
Exactly,
they have a
yes.
lot of thinking, right, to do, and they have several selections. So you don't want them to have to write this whole mini chapter for every
Yes, and
paragraph.
that's one of the things that I'm working on them also, like write it like in a sentence, at least 1 or 2. What did you read about? What was it about?
Or
And they've been
just
doing good
not
at
a
that.
complete
Right.
sentence, but just some notes, and have them, determine this was paragraph 1 with a
Right.
circle, paragraph 2, cause you know when you go to the question, sometimes it'll say, in paragraph 5, blah, 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 well, then they would be able to just go to their notes, what was paragraph 5 about? Okay, and then go back real quick,
And
so.
they should already
You
know to
recommend that?
identify that, right? Because when you're previewing the questions, if it said paragraph I was mainly about, when I'm doing my little notes, I will, right there, I'm gonna put mainly about, because when I'm reading it, that I better be focusing on that skill, that's the question they're asking me, right? So I'm not having to
So do
like,
you recommend that they write the question as well on that paper that's?
no,
written now?
no, no.
That will take too long, and then it's like just, it's already right there. I
Yeah.
would say, just to have their proof. And then this, as you move into this type of journal or whatever, is you may end up using that when they have a paper copy. Therefore, you're using the same style when you're doing it online, so that the format doesn't change. And then do some think aloud so that they see you practicing it, so they can see what it's supposed to look like.
Next we have Miss Atilano. Okay, you had 63% of the kids that took the test passed. And then if all of them were put together, then it would be the 59%. So what did you see on yours?
For example, this one, I have them right, they're multiples on the
Uh-huh.
side.
Uh-huh.
And whenever, we go through every box, like they circle, okay, there's, how many times, that's how they know how many times they had to count to get to that, and then do the subtraction. And then, so they circle their answers, like, what number is closer without going over, so they know that's what they're gonna be pretty
Okay,
much subtracting.
Good.
So, if you look at all of them, that's pretty much what all of them were doing.
Okay,
I mean, I had 8 masters, 2 meets, 1 approaching, and then my 2 that I said that I don't know what happened to them, but I know that they know
I
how to
agree
do
with
it.
you, they do need to be writing, but in order for them to do that, especially first grade, they need stems. So that they mimic, and then they're able to then release, and then they have that background of those words, the ones that are very commonly used especially. They will get there, like spring is like first grade, woo, right, blossoms. But I think right now is still a good time to still provide them with sentence stems. That gives them confidence and gives them like, this is how it should look. And you're right, they will be tested like that on Delpas, but I think this would only help them. And then you gradually maybe shorten them, right? And then maybe just put the word bank and then release them. But I think first grade, and like we see with every grade level, even though we're teaching first grade, we may have still a lot of non-readers. We do, we will always have that. And then we have those lower levels, right? So just kind of think about that. Giving them.
Maybe when we do stuff like this, maybe we can cover up some of the problems. And then once they answer those, then pull the piece off and then have them do the rest. Because this way maybe they won't give up as much if they only see I have to do 5 problems instead of the
How would that work if we have it on?
15 problems or whatever. But just a little bit at a time and reveal a little bit at a time to relieve some
But
of
for
that
Eduphoria,
anxiety.
How would we do that for Eduphoria if they do it on Eduphoria?
Well, if you give them the problems on a paper and have them work out everything first, and then they can just go and enter their answers into Eduphoria.
Okay.
So then Eduphoria doesn't become like the actual testing thing, it's more of just the thing, cause you guys used the Go Math, those
This
tests,
one,
right? Okay, but that wasn't in Eduphoria, right?
No.
No, so they just put there, so, I mean, it works the same way, so you can still cover their questions, they'll have the same amount of questions, it's just you're not showing them to them at one time.
They should try to do like a lot, and we worked on it on every story of the week. We do like I ask, okay, what was the main idea about paragraph 1, and they try to tell me this, but I'm like, no, it was shorter. I just need to know like the basic, most important thing. And I see, and I tell them like it's not even a sentence, it's just little phrases, maybe like 1 or 2 or 3 words that tell you what I'm gonna find here.
Sure.
And but a lot of them, like whenever I look at it, like they try to. This one not. This one does have 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not. They're not complete sentences, but like I have. Where is she? One that she's like writing like super detailed, and I'm like, that's a lot of writing. Like you're like her. Even though she tried to put paragraph 1 and 2 together and write like, I'm like, that's still a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And she's approaches.
Okay.
Last year, and she's in all her tests, she's just been right there at the approaches. Like,
Okay.
I think there's only one that she actually got to meet, and she was excited about it. But I'm like, you're just writing too much. Like you're spending too much time, right? Like just.
And that's, that's just them not knowing. They've never done it like this before. It's always been here, where they feel like the notes may look more limited here. They're very purposeful, right? They're intentional. So they're trying to figure out, it's not about is it enough, but is it enough for me to understand what happened in that paragraph or paragraphs? If you have them
Ms.
check it.
Latimano.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Renata's had a really good question.
Is the student just copying what she's reading? Like, is she copying the paragraph?
I don't think so, cause that was
No.
one
Is
and
she really
two.
summarizing it?
That's
really
paragraph 1 and 2
summarizing it.
together.
Wow.
Mhm.
But she's
she
trying to do
also-
it in a complete complete sentence,
Like what we've been-
Right,
paragraph.
what we
Teaching
teach them for
them.
other things.
Right.
For others.
But
So-
here, these are
Notes.
thinking tracks, these are
Uh-huh.
notes, yes, we have to, I think, reinforce that.
Did she also approve her answers?
She, in this one, I don't think she put, I don't see that she was.
So I wonder if for her, that would be something that would push her to the next level. is to really tell her the more emphasis is on, and so dividing her paper out.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.